Hello, this is Jouni Juurela from Floorball Made Simple, and today we're going to present to you a video on different ways on how you can get to offensive zone because you asked for this video and we will every time fulfill your wishes if you wish for some content. So this video will tell on the different ways on how you can go to the offensive zone, and it gives good tips to all the players and as well to the coaches. But let's go on. So this is a continuation of the previous video that told about how you can make good principles on your coaching and team play. If you haven't watched the previous video, please go watch the video so you'll understand this slide better. But use principles on your team play. Not like you say that Jack always passes to the right wide pocket where he shuts his eyes and slams the ball to the right corner, and that's the way on how you open the game. More like, present it like this: create space to the width and fill it from somewhere. Then provide the support to the deep areas of the field, and then find ways on getting into the space, into the deep areas. By passing directly to the deep areas or carrying from the width towards the deep areas and finding a better way to go there. For example, finding another player there in between that then passes the ball to the deep areas. But use principles, form principles that do not restrict and limit the players too much. And if you only construct fixed rails to some space in the field, it is super easy to mark that off and take it away from you with a forecheck, and thus you will not be able to even go into the offensive zone in the first place. Then about the different scenarios on how you can go to the offensive zone, of course the passing angles and the directions make a huge difference in the quality on how you can progress into the offensive zone. If your players always tend to pass those vertically going passes that go in the deep direction in the field, and your receivers are always taking the first touch and receiving the pass from a vertically going pass, that is also very easy to mark off by the defense. If the players can pass sometimes in the diagonal direction also, you will be able to open up a huge pile of different kind of scoring chances and scenarios for your team. So try to pass diagonally as well. And your goals to the team play should leave enough freedom of choice to the players that they can pick up the passing direction either to the deep direction or in the diagonal direction. And in this slide you will see two examples. So in the left hand side you will see a picture where the player is playing the deep pass and it is going directly to the depth, and the player is receiving the ball there. And on the right hand side you will see a diagonal pass being played. Of course those diagonal passes, especially the long ones, are harder to find from the field, and they require some sort of spacing for those to open. Then we're talking about the positioning in the first moments on how you are attempting to go to the depth of the field. So that matters quite a lot. It means how many players are you placing to the midfield in the build-up phase of the attack, and how many players are you leaving in the deep areas. Do you always tend to bring up those four players to build up the play down on the field in the low areas and only one player receiving in the depth? If you are doing so, that creates some difficulties for your team from the perspective of how easy it is to progress the game once the big pass to the depth is placed. And you should always have at least a one receiver in the depth, because that will stretch the opposing team's forecheck formation and space will be created. And if you use this sort of placing that only one player is receiving in the depth, it will always end up to being a 1 versus 1 situation in the death, and there will be a huge delay on the supporting players arriving. So the player needs to cope by him or herself in the situation for a while. Not a good thing. You can never drop all of your 5 players to the same half-court side of the field, because that is just plain dumb. You shouldn't do that, because there is no space between your players. There is no room to make anything if all the players are stacked in a one side of the field. Then to the next questions. These are only solutions and choices you can make. Do you bring 3 players to build up the play in the middle zone and then push 2 players high? Or are you brave enough and are your players skilled enough to leave only 2 players to open up the game and bring 3 players to the death? And placing the 3 highest players to the half-deep spaces of the field, we're going to talk about that in a while, but that is a huge, huge trend in modern floorball these days, so you will get a bunch of good tips on that spectrum as well. And this is a picture that showcases to you on how you can basically leave the 3 players build up in the middle zone and then push up the 2 receiving players to the death. Keep in mind, if you're only jamming those vertical passes to the death, this is rather easy one to take out from you. If some sort of diagonal passes are found from this, it is way better. But this way you can see that it is perfectly okay to stretch the field in this matter, because that kind of positioning of the players will stretch the opposing team's forecheck, and the wide pockets in the middle zone will thus be bigger and there is more space to use. And it is always beneficial that you will not totally stay still in that situation where you start to build up. If you have 3 players low, when you're starting to progress to the offensive zone, you want to bring a helping player, at least one from those lowest players, to help out the players that receive the big pass to the offensive zone. So here are 2 examples on how you can instruct a supporting player to come there. On the left hand side, the lowest one of the field. So sort of the bottom player, he or she is the one that creates the big supporting movement to the offensive zone. And thus he or she will become the 3rd member providing support in the death. On the right hand side, you will see that the opposite wide player goes to provide the support. Either way you do it, you need to have the 3rd player supporting there. And then we continue with the similar examples. On the left hand side, you will see a give and go motion being played. So if the bottom player passes to the left hand side receiver in the middle zone, he or she can carry the ball a bit, then play to the death, and then just go ahead in the field towards the goal. So a give and go motion is played, and by that motion you will have the 3rd player helping out when your team is going to the offensive zone. And on the right hand side you will see another variation. You have not made any bottom triangle or 3-player line there. You have made a 1 wide line with your defenders, and then you will have a receiving 3rd player in the right hand side pocket, the width pocket, and then one of your defenders plays a wide pass to another, drives without the ball towards the depth, and thus you will have the 3rd player. So there's bunch of variations on how you can bring the 3rd player to help out in the deep areas. And here's a picture showcasing you how you can place the players when you attempt to leave the 2 players in the build-up phase in the middle zone. And then you're placing bravely 3 players rather high on the pitch. So if you're facing a forecheck where there is only one top player there forechecking, you should always be able with 2 defenders to win that player. So it is a 2 versus 1 situation for them, rather easy one to solve. You should always win 1 forechecker with 2 defenders. And you can see in this clip that if they are using that 1-2-2 formation on the forecheck, the weakest spot is behind the second line of the forecheck. So if you place a player that is over the second line of the forecheck and you are able to play the ball to the death, you will have a momentary a 3 versus 2 situation in the death, and it is quite easy to get a scoring chance from that. And then the question, what the heck is the half deep space in the field? It is demonstrated by this picture with 2 different squares of space. As you can see, the most farthest space from your own end and nearest to opposing team's goal, that is the deep area, and that is marked by a more darker space. So that is the deep area. But that half deep space is the one that is not in the totally deep area, in the totally that end of the opposing team, but it is not either in the middle zone of your own team. It is somewhere in the between. And many top teams in Finnish F-League tend to attack in a way that they have a 3 receiving player line on that half depth space. And for a moment, they have those 3 players positioned in those spaces, and they are trying to find one of those players with a pass. After they find one of those with a pass, then the other ones start to rotate and move towards the goal-scoring areas, and that is a rather tricky one to take out with any kind of defensive formation. Now we know where the spaces are in the half-deep areas, but how can you use those? Like I said, in the starting moment, when you're trying to go to the offensive zone, try to organize your players right away into those half-depth spaces. So you can place the 3 highest players right away into the half-deep areas. Or couple of those players can position themselves right away in those areas, and one moves from the lower parts of the field to provide the support into one of those channels in a movement. And then direct scoring chance can be created with 1, 2 or 3 passes. Perhaps one longer pass to a receiving player to that half deep space, and then a couple of shorter ones to break into a scoring chance. And players start from mid-depth and then move into a better scoring chances and areas. And please describe a forecheck to me that can mark all of these players out, because I'm a bit confused. I cannot figure out any forechecking formation that could, with a proper form and be solid enough to take all of those out. And here's a clip that showcases exactly that.
Keskustaan Krietsiittis löytää ykköselle lavan. Ja näin, vaikka tämä erä tähän mennessä on ollut M-tiimin hallussa, niin tämä BC loistava.
And as you saw, they had 3 players down in the beginning, but one of them moved to a half deep space, and there was momentary a 3-player line in the half depth. Yeah, so as we can see, you should enable rotation and bring support from the low spaces to the high spaces with a bunch of speed and movement. You might want to start opening up the game with 3 players and low and 2 players high, but at least one should move from the low spaces to the high spaces and provide support with a motion. A supporting player from low spaces is moving with a high speed to those high spaces, and it is very hard to mark because there is a speed advantage for that player in the situation. All the formations are easy to defend against if the players are fixed to the same sides and spaces in the pitch all the time. So tend to move diagonally out of your zone towards the center and to the other parts of the field. And if the players would have a heat map of how they move in the field, If they are able to shift their channels where they are moving to the center, to the other side, they are harder to defend against. And from this slide, we can see that the movement direction of the receiving player that receives the big pass to the deep areas is also a very important key factor. As you can see, in the left-hand side, we will see a example where the player is moving with a counter movement towards the ball. So the player is positioning him or herself into receiving the ball and preparing for the 1-versus-1 situation in a way that he or she is able to make a counter movement and thus bring him or herself towards the center. So the attempt in the situation is to get a positive playing position and direction, which means basically that you are able to move towards the center or pass towards the center. Which is quite the opposite really, comparing to the right hand side picture, because there you can see the player's movement direction and the motion is going towards the corner, which means that he or she has to turn with the ball to get a positive playing position and direction from there. So the movement is going towards the corner, and you will almost never be able to do anything that contributes on scoring if you are moving towards the corner. And this slide demonstrates the same exact thing, because if your aim is to only play the ball to the corner, you should do it in an as easy way as possible, right? In the left hand side, you will see a picture from not the previous video, but the previous before that, from Floorball Made Simple, and there a team is playing this very old traditional 3-player line to the corner. So they're playing with 2 approximately 10-meter long passes the ball to the corner, but the player will end up into a negative playing position to receive the ball. So what's the worth of it, of doing it in such a difficult manner? You know, in the right hand side you will see just the way you keep a wide back line and then just slap shot the ball to the corner. Really, it makes no difference. If the player is receiving it into a negative playing position, it's no matter how you play it there. Just play it there in the most simplistic and fastest way. But then again, it comes down to what you want to do. Do you even want to get that ball into the deep areas in a negative playing position, or would you want to create something where the player can receive it in a positive one? Okay, hey, this was our video for today, so thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please share this to your mates, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hey, we got the socials as well. So follow us on Instagram at Floorball Made Simple, and you will find out when new content arrives. Have a good training week. Bye!